Hi everyone, this is a quick introduction to Microsoft Teams or MS Teams, which is the new communication system that the university is rolling out. As of term 2, it's going to be the way you use to communicate throughout your studies. Each unit of study that you're enrolled in will have its own team allocated to it. But for the first term, we're very lucky in that we're being used as guinea pigs, or I volunteered us to be used as guinea pigs, in legal introduction to law. And one of the reasons why I was so keen to do it is that our existing forms of communication, which are email and the rather awful old forums in Moodle, just really aren't up to chop much anymore. So this is a good move from the university. It'd be nice if they'd have unleashed it a little bit earlier than day one of term 1, but you can't have everything. Alright, so what is MS Teams or Microsoft Teams? Well, apart from being one of the worst product titles in history, try Googling for help on Teams and see how quickly you can get anything that's meaningful. It's a digital workspace, and that means it's a way of being able to work with others or study with others, including, when we say others, it can be just you and the university, and to share resources so that everything's in one place, that you don't have stuff in a Google Drive and stuff in a forum somewhere here and bits and pieces everywhere. Now, Moodle was originally supposed to be something that did this, but Moodle is also a very, very old product. So it'll be phased out, and as we go, Teams will be taking over more of those functions. And for us, primarily what it's going to be is a means of chatting and communicating, and that's what it's best at. And it has its origins, many of you may have heard of or even used Slack or systems. There's a nice little cut down version called Chanty that I've used that's rather nice. This is the Microsoft entry. And from the outset, one of the, problems with it is that it's a Microsoft product, so they throw everything, including the kitchen sink, at you. So the interface can be a bit overwhelming. One reason I like Chanty, although we don't have an option of using it, is it's nice and cut down, it's really intuitive, and it only has the things you need in it. Teams has a bit of that, like, I don't know what to click on where or what does what. And being Microsoft, they always give you 8 ways of doing one thing. And we often end up saying, but just give me one way, just whatever. But anyway, it's a digital workspace. It's the way things are going, and it's in many ways a response to the fact that email is a fundamentally bad way of communicating. Things get lost in email. Email was supposed to make communications more efficient, and all it ended up really being was an excuse for organisations just to info dump more and more information on people. So this is a way to make communication more efficient and more accessible. And one of the best things about these new products is not only do they borrow from social media interfaces, so it's something that's quite familiar for most people, but they also are mobile enabled. So you can get to this onto your computer, on your mobile, whatever, and you're accessible to Teams wherever and whenever. Of course, not everyone else who's in the Teams is going to be accessible whenever or wherever. I know I work normal work hours, and it is very handy. If you think of something at 1:30 in the morning, you can pop your mobile out and you can put a question in Teams, but don't think you're going to be getting a response. And I guess that's one of the other good things about Teams, is that you can switch it on and off on your mobile devices. So you don't have to be always there waiting for it to buzz or whatever. And certainly I would, like, even with email, I would recommend don't have these things on while you're trying to study, particularly when you're trying to write a research paper. Don't have these constant interruptions. It can be very, very bad to be trying to write something and have messages pop up and emails pop up all the way through it. All right, let's have a look at where we have to go to get into Teams. Okay, so here I am in Moodle for Introduction to Law, as you can see, and over on the right hand side, and this sidebar may be disabled, it may be something that you have to make reappear, but over here you'll see the connection to your Microsoft account. This is brand new as of last week, and a connection to your Microsoft OneDrive, which works like a Google Drive, and to Teams. And if you click on that link, that should take you to at least a piece of software that will allow you to download the Teams interface on your computer, or you can use it on your mobile device. Now, to do that, what you may have to do is enter your the code for this unit, the Teams code, and we'll see here the Teams code is included there. So you can type, not the word code, of course, just that code into your mobile device. Once you've installed the Teams app, it'll take you in there as well. Now, one small point of caution: if you already have a Teams account that you use, so for instance for work, if you try using that code, it'll just say, I don't understand. And what it really should say is you need to log out of your work account and log into your student account for that code to work. Now, this is a known problem with Teams, and if you have a look at the Microsoft page, there's like 1,000 emails from last year of people saying, Microsoft, please fix this. Give us an easy way to swap between different team spaces and different accounts, and that will be coming. I'm sure once they get the kinks out of it, that will be there. If you don't already have a Teams account that you're using elsewhere, it won't be a problem for you. But that's just something that's a bit of a, I guess, a surprise for people who don't already, who have an existing account, and the error code it gives you is not really all that helpful in telling you why it wouldn't let you in. Okay, now I'm in the actual Teams interface itself. It'll have various bits of information all over the place, but if you go into the Teams tab here, it will give you a list of all the teams that you're currently a member of. And you'll see here that I've got heaps of different ones, but there's the Introduction to Law one right there. So if I click on that, that will take me into the Teams interface just for that unit. And along the left-hand side here are a series of what they call channels, which are separate sort of discussion areas. And in here is the main discussion, is the discussion feed for each of them. So you can see there's a little bit that's been going on in the general area, but there's probably less going on in these other areas. You'll see there's nothing happening really much in the ones that are set up for later weeks. All right, now you can ignore a lot of this other stuff down the side. There'll be more. Some of these will make sense when they come to them. Some of them are just not even implemented yet. So assignments, for instance, will pop up all over the place, and that's getting ready for your assignment submission to be all done through Teams rather than Moodle. But it's not working yet, so it's not gonna work. And unfortunately, they haven't been able to switch that off. So it does. So just please ignore any time it says something like assignments for the moment. All right, so let's have a little bit of a look at what these channels mean. General is what it sounds like. It's a general discussion area, and you can see other people have been posting and asking questions, and it has just the general discussions that people can have, and anyone can post in there. So one way, if you want to ask me a question, is that you can get in and just come down here and ask a question, and just type it in here. What is happening with classes re the virus? Which, of course, the university will be sending you information about that as it comes. At this point in time, and this may be a historical document, the unis are staying open, but let's not get sidetracked by that. But you can type anything in there, and that will come up in the stream. One of the cute things is if you put an @ and you say @ that should have put my name in there, and ask a question. Then what it does is alerts me that there's not only been a new discussion, but it'll also send me an email that says someone has posted something and atted you on the discussion. So that's really useful. I mean, you can use it to alert anyone else. You can do it. You can do it for Luke as well. But usually it's most useful if you want to talk to your unit coordinator, because sometimes these discussions end up being reasonably detailed discussions between students and groups of students, and we don't necessarily read all of that stuff. But if somewhere down within a discussion someone says, "Oh, Scott, have you got an opinion on this?" I might not necessarily notice it, but if you use the thing, then it'll alert me. The other things you can do is like normal sort of social media things. Is you can add little emoticon icons to things, and if there's been a lot of reactions to it, that's one way of alerting us that something's going on there. So if something pops up and someone asks a question and there's 7 like reactions to it, that's a bit of an alert to say there's something interesting or useful happening. All right, so you can obviously, this is a nice example here that you can post images here, you can post videos, you can post all sorts of things, you can post funny GIFs, you can do lots of stuff, but most people aren't going to do that. They're just going to use it as a discussion site. Now, in terms of the other channels, there's a channel called Announcements, and the thing that's special about Announcements is that only I or Luke can post to it, but you guys can respond to it. So that allows us to sort of clear an area that's just from the UCs. I've created a section for assessment questions to try and filter those out so that they all happen in one place. One for general socialising if people want it. There's one for each week. And for the 2 on-campus groups, I've created a channel for the Rockhampton and the Townsville group if they want to get in and have a chat with each other and get to know each other there. Those are what are called open channels or public channels, so anyone can get in and discuss. I also have the option of creating in here a closed channel. So if there's a study group who wanted to create a channel that other students couldn't see, I can create that if that's something you really, really wanted to do. Obviously, with 200 students, I'm not going to be necessarily that quick at getting back to you if everyone wants one. The other thing you can do, I think, is when you go into the Teams menu back here, is you should be able to create your own team. Now, why you might want to do that rather than create a channel in a unit is you might have a study group that meets, that studies multiple units, and it's going to be a pain if it's just located in this one particular channel, and you want to talk about another unit of study, you'd have to create another one. And also, I believe these channels will disappear at the end of term. So if you want to create a study group that has a longer life, click in here and create your own. And I believe that works. And the other thing about these channels is if I create a private channel for you guys in the intro section, I have no interest in looking at it, but I can look at it. So it's not entirely private. The advantage of it, though, is that you can @me in that group, and I can contribute to discussions that come out of that group in the same way as they would come out of the general discussion area, which won't happen with those groups that you create for yourself. So there's pros and cons in both ways of doing it, but it's generally pretty useful. Other things that appear here are files, and that's basically a OneDrive cloud-based filing system. Now, at the moment, we pretty much use Moodle to upload files, but there might be things that just get uploaded to Teams. And I know as I do more videos and things, I'll be uploading the videos not only to Moodle but also to Teams, so that when you jump into maybe the announcements, maybe that's where I'll put them, when new videos and things appear, I'll be putting them up there so that you can just see that something new has appeared. And that's something Moodle is terrible at, in actually keeping you notified. The thing at the top of Moodle where it says these are the new things for this week, I have to manually edit that. There's no way of Moodle just like telling you what's new and what's changed since last time you looked, because Moodle is a very, very old system. But anyway, there's a file system where you can upload, download, whatever. There's also the class notebook, which opens up a private, obviously I need to set that up, so I'll do that, a private space for you to create notes and to share notes with other people. It's basically like a Google Drive or a Google Doc that you can share with...
Here's what I found on the...
I mentioned the G word and my phone responded. Sorry. But it means that if you want to just keep notes in one place when you're on the go and you don't want to lose them, you can set them up here and they're private until you decide to share them with someone else. So that's the advantage of that notebooks area, is that you can get in there and you can say, okay, here are my notes on the readings for this week, and every time you get into Teams you can access them and they are private to you unless you decide you want to share them with someone else. Alright, assignments, grades, that doesn't work. Questions, I don't think works. Welcome to Teams will give you a bit of a rundown like this on Teams. And Moodle should actually open a little window with Moodle within it, which seems a little pointless if you're on a desktop, but it's probably the easiest way to get into Moodle if you're on a mobile device. So that's probably something that's quite useful. Alrighty. Other things, these integrate with a lot of other Microsoft products, so it'll integrate with your Microsoft Outlook calendar, like that, and it'll tell me what's happening this week in terms of staff meetings and things like that. Fortunately, there wasn't anything confidential in there that I breached anyone's privacy by clicking on that link, but there we go. I probably should have thought about it before I did that. And there's a chat function where you can pick people who you know, who you've communicated with via Teams, and you can chat with them face to face. It also, I believe, supports telephone calls and video conferencing. So yeah, I mean, we use Zoom for our videos at the moment, but if you wanted to call a friend without paying for a phone call, or you wanted like a little video conference with your study group, this should do all that automatically. Now, I haven't used it, can't vouch for it, but that could be very useful. The other thing I should have mentioned is this activity button right up at the top left hand will have a number on it if things have been happening, and that will bring up activity across all your teams. So that means that you can scan through there, and there might be a heap of things. Obviously, there's not a lot happening this week yet, but once Teams gets up and running, there'll be messages appearing on the feed from all the different team spaces you have. So it does mean that how do you stay in touch with things with Teams? Well, one way, if someone's used the your name, then they will get an email and they'll say, you've been mentioned in Teams, click here to have a look at it. But if you just want to know what's been happening generally, you can go to the activity stream and you can scroll through and you go, that looks interesting, that looks interesting, that doesn't look very interesting, and see that. So yeah, a lot of the other functions, there's all sorts of applications you can plug in if you're interested in this stuff. If you're not interested in this stuff, just close your eyes now. But there's all sorts of stuff, like even like SurveyMonkey you can plug into there. GitHub, if you're a Git person. There's all sorts of different stuff that can be added as plugins. Not really relevant for us right now, but something that if you're in that application space, you might find interesting. Anyway, that's probably enough rabbiting on about this stuff. The best way to get into this is to get to understand this is to get in and use it. Just like, if nothing else, jump into the socializing link and just say hello. You know, we go, hi, I'm Scott. How is everyone today? And that'll pop up. And if 200 people answer and say, I'm fine, or I'm feeling really annoyed today, or whatever, it doesn't really matter. It'll collapse it under a discussion, and people who are interested can go and have a look at it, but for everyone else it'll just appear as a stream, and it'll tell you how many replies there are. So that it just gives you that really easy way to communicate, and it will start making sense the more that you use it. So jump into socializing, have something to say. If you've got questions about any of the week's readings, you can jump into the relevant weeks. If you're an on-campus student, jump into the on-campus public groups and introduce yourself to your fellows and get to know each other. And if you do want a private group, think about those options earlier. I can set you up with a private group within this particular unit of study, but be aware of those limitations. But you can also go into your Teams menu back here, and you can create your own team, and that's one that you can maintain over time. Just be aware with all these things, and even with a private team, that the University Code of Conduct does apply, and that our tech people can, even if you've created a private team, if someone was to do something horrible or say something horrible to someone in a private team, they could actually go in and have a look at the logs and see what happened. So I'm hoping this is absolutely unnecessary to say, but I have to say it anyway. If someone was to say sexually harass someone, or say something that was a racial vilification, or any of those awful things that can happen in online spaces, and someone then reports it to me, I can get the tech people to investigate, and then there could be misconduct proceedings against the person who was guilty. But I'm just saying that because I have to say it. I haven't had any problems with this yet, and I do think this will be an interesting and useful space for you to start working in as you study.